Hey everyone, welcome back to Evony with Genghis. Parts unknown. I got a question in the comment section of YouTube of I think it was yesterday's video, asking me how do you efficiently loot an alt? What's the best way? And it's actually a good question because not every server is peaceful, right? I've been on very hostile servers. So my first server, 136, it was very hostile, bubble or burn, no agreements. People saw you looting an alt. People came and took a scoop out of it, or people tried to kill you. So there were strategies I personally would use. As I was a smaller player, I was like 1 or 200 million, and there were people who were like 1.5 billion, and they could kill me in one hit, right? So you have to be very careful. So what I would do, I would use two devices, two phones, or a phone and a computer for two different accounts, or have a friend using one, or my wife, because it's her account, just donating to me, the family member donation, using the other device. And basically I would do it when the other alliances were in battlefield. So there was one big alliance. It was actually nefarious. The last alliance I ended up in, if they went in battlefield, I would use that 2 hours to loot my alts, and I would plan my alt looting around that. That's it, basically. There was another alliance that was kind of the same size as us, and they would try and mess with us and do stuff. But if you're really quick, I could loot an alt in a minute or two. And there's so much stuff you have to do to attack someone. You got to recall your marches, maybe teleport, get your troops ready, march buff. You can't just hit someone in 30 seconds. But there's ways to be efficient. And let's go over that. First, I just want to look at these eggs that you get from Civilization Treasure 2 and 3. So this is from only gathering for like an hour. And right there, I just got 50 million bonus resources on top of the gathering just from those eggs. So anyways, let's go over what you would do when looting an alt. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your general for this, right? So you ideally with the two generals, you should have it set up with Amir and Attila. So we're going to look at them right now. So I'm going to add Amir to the main general spot because he's the one wearing my gear, my equipment. And then Attila. Actually, you know what? I'll show you an example of this first. So I'm going to put up my T14 Siege to loot, and that's because I've set up Amir's gear and his books to work with Siege. So you can see here, I have 1.15 million load, right? So now I'm going to add Attila, and she's going to increase that load. Or he, actually, it's Attila the Hun. Now you can look, it's almost 1.5 million. So I just gained 300 and something million by doing that. And now if we look at the skill books, so Attila brings 75%. Amir brings 100%. And now they don't need all the books because they aren't all going to be used. I gave Amir siege range just because I think it helps to protect my siege from being killed by traps and enemy, just the enemy wall, basically. Maybe the archer tower, something like that. It will keep them out of distance. Then march speed, because you want to be quicker. And, even if you're doing an 8-second march, why not do it in 6 seconds? And then when we look at the Attila books, march size, because that will help. Ground troop load and siege machine load, because those are the two troops that carry the most amount of troops. So just in case sometimes I wanted to do it with ground or I want to do it with siege, depending, higher level keeps, if it's like 32, 33, 34, 35, a lot of your siege you're going to get damaged. So you might want to go with ground because you don't want to pay the gems. The smaller ones, they'll be out of range of your siege and your siege will be fine. You'll usually get 0 wounded. So now when you are attacking, before you attack the enemy city, your family member, your alt, what you should do is let's pretend I'm in the alt right now. You should go here and dismiss all the traps and move all the troops out of the city because you don't need traps on an alt. So now, after I've set up that march, and we remember it was 1.427, there's two things I can do. I can change my talent because I want to have this on, troop load 25%. And you also want to change your gear to all troop load. So mine's at 50%. Just going to join these rallies for a second. And now, so I added 50%. And I'm going to go back in and pretend to make that exact same march. And it was 1.427 last time. Let's see what we're at now. So that was with all T14 siege. So now we are at 1.576. So I added another 150 million. And now something else you can actually do. I don't do it because I just don't need to. This server I'm on is pretty peaceful. No one will attack or do anything. So I don't have to worry about time too much. But sometimes if you're really stressed for time, you can also add a march buff, okay? So here they are here. You can add a 200%, a 100%, or a 50%. And all of them will increase how much load you can carry. So those are the important things. Now, the other thing that you really should look at is on your main general, you should be adding things that will increase march size, will increase load. So if we look right here, if you have 6 pieces of heirs gear, you're going to get 10% march size capacity. So that's going to help out, right? And then doing all of the refinements on the gear, you don't have to do them all. I just hit random on a couple. This one was actually already done because it was just randomly being used for someone else. But there's certain pieces that will add troop load. And don't spend too much gems. Just try and get a few spins that help out. It's not smart to, get everything over 20% because it's going to cost you a lot of gems. There's really no need for it. As you can see, I've added some more here. I got luckier, but I used about the same amount of gems. And there was a ground one, and I was like, you know what? Sometimes I might use ground, so leave it in. Up here on the helmet, nothing special going on there. Same with the pants. These were just leftover gears that I had sitting there, as you could see with all the ground HP. So I just threw them on. It didn't really matter. And the ring also does load. So I got some more siege here and 1 ground. So basically, ring, boots, chest, you can get ground refines troop load refines and put them on there. And then 6 pieces of heirs will give you that extra 10%. So that's what you want to do. You want to have the most amount of troops you can possibly have, right? Increase march size capacity. Also, make sure you have this heirs ring because it has march size capacity on it, okay? So you don't want to have the other one that doesn't have march size capacity. So that's important. And the sword here has troop load 27%. And I believe that's pretty much all of it for looting your family members, gaining resources. Now, another thing you can do, you can talk with your server. So as I was saying at the start, the first server I was on, 136, very hostile, bubble or burn, everybody hated each other. Then we merged with 2 other servers, 68 and 90, and they had a rule, sort of. I'm not really sure where it came in, kind of, but they had a bubble or burn. They disliked each other, but they did allow each other to loot alts. So if you saw someone looting their alt, you wouldn't attack them. And that was totally respected. I never saw that broke one time in the about year and a half I was there because everyone needs resources. Everyone needs to loot their own alts. So that was kind of something that, you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face. So everybody respected that. If you're on a bubble or burn server, you can ask other alliances, hey, how about we still bubble or burn, but we let each other loot our own alts. You can set it up so you go into a corner or you go into your hive. Funny story, actually. One of the first times we merged, Vietnam Ken, he's selling resources, right? And everyone was scared from the old server to buy off him because we're like, whoa, we're small. We just merged to a 5-year-old server and everyone's like 1 billion or 2 billion. That was back when that was big. That was pre-K40. 1 billion was a huge player. Anyways, we didn't want to, and Vietnam Ken was like, let's go to the corner. No one will bother us. And apparently, if anyone interrupts his business, he interrupts their farming and their boss hunting for a long, long time until they repay. So I guess he sort of put the fear into people and let everybody know this is something separate that's going on. Plus, everybody was buying from the guy. So everybody understood and everyone was kind of good friends with him and no one wanted to mess up that situation. So anyways, talk with your server, try and organize stuff like that. These are the best ways to loot an alt. Let me know in the comments if you got any other ways that you do it. I don't recommend using those 200% gold March buffs because they're very rare. But those orange and purple ones, you can use those and you'll always have a supply of them. Anyways, Genghis, parts unknown. Like, subscribe, leave a comment.